So go live. Here we go. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Midnight Strike Through Mormons live stream here. I am Cardin Ellis. I'm your host. Oops, I had the camera on Quaker the whole time.
Quaker's like looking around like,
totally.
what's happening here?
Yeah, that was kind of funny. So anyway, welcome guys to the Midnight Strike Through Mormons live stream. I'm your host, Cardin Ellis. I am joined in the studio by Kwaku L, as well as Brad Whitbeck and Luke Hansen, head of the BYU Cougar Chronicle. Okay. Co-head, whatever you are. You're large and in charge, my man. And we are joined via the interwebs by both Jim Bennett and Guatemax. All right. Now, a lot has happened on the internet in the past 24 hours. Yet we love in this show. We practice the healer's art. We, get people together. We believe community is important and everything like that. And the internet has been alive in the past 24 hours. Brad, why don't you catch us up? Jim Bennett, if you were paying attention to our show, was called out by Luke Hansen 2 days ago. 2 days ago. And Jim Bennett had the stones to come on this show and actually face his accusers, habeas corpus. And we worked it out. We hugged it out. So he has earned the right. He has earned the right to call people out and say, hey, I didn't like or I did like X, Y, or Z thing. And we're going to talk about it. And then hopefully we'll all hug it out. And this is just wild. So anyway, first off, Jim, introduce yourself again to anybody that's not been paying attention, because we got a lot of new members in the chat. P.S. This is a Sunday, so I've turned off regular monetization and skippable ads and stuff like that. I can still look at comments of people telling me what an idiot I am. Oh, well, yeah, and you're going to have people that absolutely love you and say we're idiots, man. It's going to be a mixed bag in there. Never read the comments during the chat unless you're moderating.
That's what got me into trouble last time.
Yeah, it'll mess with your head, man. So anyway, you can avoid the super chats. We're going to try and just be as responsive as we can to everybody that we can. So anyway, Jim, tell everybody who you are, and then Guatemax tell everybody who she is. Jim, let us know who you are.
My name is Jim Bennett, and according to the Twitter feed, I apparently arranged to have lesbian pornography filmed in Latter-day Saint Temple.
We're on YouTube. Just not too many keywords. Okay, just
no. I mean that's kind of where the discussion went. All of a sudden, it exploded. Guatemax, who I don't know, although I now regret saying anything about Guatemax in our last exchange, decided to produce a video that includes an image of somebody holding a gun to my face, and
holding a gun to your face.
The comments were all that Jim Bennett is trying to destroy the church, and one guy decided to say Jim Bennett participates in trying to get lesbian pornography filmed in LDS temples. And it really just devolved into something that just startled me with the depths of its depravity to the point where I was stunned to think that any of these people have any idea what it means to be a Latter-day Saint. We came off of a conference where the prophet gave what I consider to be the best talk he's ever given, and perhaps one of the best talks I have ever heard from the pulpit and general conference about decrying the kind of online behavior and the kind of slime, digital slime that we've seen in the last 24 hours. And it's just so utterly repugnant to me that other Latter-day Saints behave this way, that I really don't have anything positive to say. If you're going to end up having me hug this out, we've got a long way to go.
And
all right.
I want to say I wasn't laughing at you, Jim. You have this Seinfeld type of delivery when you talk.
Yeah.
And like the timing of how you emphasize words. You could be a comic. You could be a stand-up.
Yeah, you missed your calling in life, bro. You should have been
I was going to be a world-famous actor once, and I flirted with stand-up ideas, but now I'm too old and boring.
There's still time, Jim. It's never too late.
Well, look at you. You're creating controversy on the internet, bro. You still got game. And by the way,
thank you very much.
I'm just going to throw my 2 cents in right here. I actually think this is a win-win situation for everybody, okay? I think Guatemax might have gone wrong in a couple of areas, just like sometimes I think you're overly diplomatic. I think she kind of, might have stepped on a couple of landmines in this one. But at the end of the day, all it did was increase your profile. Now, you know what I'm saying?
I wasn't asking to increase my profile.
Well, you do
I was
engage
having
on
a
Twitter.
Conversation, and all of a sudden, I've spent 24 hours.
You will win your next election, Jim Bennett.
I'm not running for anything ever again.
Well, we will hopefully inspire you. We will hopefully inspire you to take up the banner of public service one more time. So
I'm too progressive. I'm too much of a progmo. I'm too much of a wild-eyed Marxist pornographer. So I don't see how that's going to win me any elections.
No more P words. YouTube's going to get mad. Okay.
Well, take it up with Guatemax, not with me.
Well, that's what we're going to do.
It wasn't even her who said that, to be fair.
But I mean, that was the tenor of the Guatemax defenders. It was, isn't this wonderful that we've got images of violence and images of repugnance about a fellow Latter-day Saint, and isn't this great? And I just stand in awe of the fact that DesNet are not just the worst members of the church, but are perhaps the worst people I encounter on the internet, regardless of what their faith affiliation is.
Okay, so the complaint has been lodged. We're doing this just like a trial. The complaint has been lodged. A criminal complaint has been lodged. All right. We see our accuser here. Now, really fast, I'll just give a little small introduction to Guatemax, and then she can, introduce herself.
Guatemax is not her name.
No.
Right? Guatemax is an alias.
Yes.
It's her Twitter name.
It's her Twitter name.
Right.
Right.
I mean, so in other words, she produces this kind of sludge without being willing to put her name to it, right?
Well,
it's also her brand. Like it's like you're Stallion Cornell. Like it's not like she's hiding who she
Stallion
is.
Cornell, you can tell, is attached to an actual person with an actual address.
She's here talking to you. She's not like hiding who she is, dude.
Okay.
Can find where I live.
Jim. Okay, Jim. I get it. You've said your thing. Now hold on a second.
Right. I'm going to say more.
Yeah, no, I believe it. I believe it. So now really fast, okay? She's sat through this whole thing, been really patient, all right? So Guatemax, tell us who you are, okay? Give us a little bio about yourself, and then I'll give a short introduction to our audience about you really fast too. So Guatemax, the stage is yours.
Yeah. So first of all, English is my third language. So if you don't understand me or if I'm slow speaking, because it's my third language. And another thing is, was Friday's live stream. Well, I'm just watching. I don't know. I've never interacted with Bennett, but he has some music and everything.
Either, by the way, but that doesn't.
Okay, but anyways, so I gave my opinion of a song with that Javelin Man. That's his song basically. Yeah. Which I gave the option basically of metal option, power metal, the new rendition of it. And what else did I say? Well, he exploded basically with that's not loon. Yeah. So, besides that, Cardon offered the offer of a moon to be the next day. So it was basically a challenge, a 24-hour challenge for me. That's something that I do. I am Guatemax Animations. I produce video. I think my name, Stefan Alfaro, is in all of my YouTube videos. So basically, I'm not anonymous. My very picture is in my Twitter account profile picture. So I am not anonymous. You can go and find my name easily. And another thing, it's connected to my brand, Animations. Mm-hmm. So that's something that I do with the tag, #DesNet memes, which I was DesNet a while ago, which is something that I haven't interacted with a long time. I don't remember even when, so I don't know. So that's something that.
Right.
So
yeah,
love
is
this.
It was just a new challenge.
Okay, cool. So check this out. Here, what we're gonna do so that everybody is on the same page in our audience here. All right, everybody's on the same page in our audience. We're gonna see what caused this whole little controversy here, so nobody is just speaking out of their butts. All right. And then we're going to have the trial of Guatemax, all right? And we'll check this out. She's obviously a really good sport. It's quite impressive. Look at that studio. I mean, no matter what you think of this thing, you put this together in 24. Like, my mind was blown when the second I got the text. I thought, what the heck?
Well-produced fascism is really a good sign of your talent.
Okay. So hold on a second, Jim. All right, so we're gonna see what on earth everybody's talking about here, and we'll check it out. We'll check it out. Okay.
Right before you play this, can
yes.
I just say, I'm taking a step back, and I am fascinated that there are 4 guys in L.A., one of which is wearing a tie and white shirt, as we're reviewing a Guatemalan animation that depicts, neo-retro art of Brigham Young in war against Jim Bennett of Sandy, Utah. Like there's so many moving parts to this. If I were to explain this to someone, it sounds like I made it up off the top of my head.
I had many thoughts about what might happen when I came down here to film with you guys. This was not one of them.
This was not one of them. Okay. Well, let's just check this out. Let's see what's going on. Okay. And here we go. Love your neighbor as thyself, right?
Thou shalt love thy neighbor as thyself.
Right.
So love is at the centerpiece of the gospel. For God so loved the world that he sent his only begotten son, right? I think Lucas brings up a really good point, that they're stealing words.
Welcome to Brave Name's Inclusive Kingdom.
Truly there is no God here.
Would you see that maybe Luke is right, that we have to start defining what love is so the word doesn't get stolen?
No, I wouldn't concede any of that.
I can't even read those.
Says, if there's going to be a music video for Javelins, then it has to be heavy power metal. Yes, if you give us the music to...
Guatemax, that guy's a DesNet loon bag.
Well, it's actually a girl.
That's whoever she is, I've seen her all over Twitter, and I'm not a fan.
Oh, snap. Well, watch out. You might just be in some meme tomorrow.
DesNet, you test, you guessed it. Run around and calling us some...
Okay, so before we go to the music video part, up until now, actually, I thought that was hilarious. Okay, what were your thoughts, guys? Not Jim Bennett, He'll have a chance to talk right now, right? But what were your guys' thoughts up until now?
Like, the production quality is top tier. and I think, hopefully, Jim, it comes across to me as like an opportunity for you to see, like, hey, this is just a person who wanted to interact with you, hopefully positively. And there's a chance for that.
I'm willing to admit that I shouldn't have jumped all over. I mean, I didn't know that Guatemax was a woman. I didn't even think of Guatemax as a person, and that's on me. I thought of Guatemax as the kind of sludge and garbage that I've seen attached to the Guatemax account and to the DesNet stuff that I've seen over the years, which is beyond the pale, as you're going to see, at least in my opinion, in the succeeding music video that follows this. But my biggest regret on this is not keeping my mouth shut.
That's something that I was saying also. I'm just a watcher, but I was mentioned, so I was involved in it. So
okay,
I was in public live stream. It's not just okay, I can just put it up. It's a public position of something that people don't know who I am, what the max, as you say, but a quick outburst of anger instead of
okay, so
what had that to do with it?
Okay, well, Brad, hold on, Brad. Only one guy could talk at once. Brad, you.
And that was one thing that I felt bad about. I was like, I should have stepped in and defended Guatemax better right then. We were moving so quickly through the live stream that I missed it because I should have said, like, look, Guatemax is a good person who I've worked with on different things. She's really awesome, and she doesn't deserve to be called out in that way, because I think the underlying theme of what we're all talking about here ties back into President Nelson's talk, like you were talking about, Jim, where we want to ultimately not just condemn others around us and treat them as not children of God, right? We need to recognize everyone around us as children of God, even though we're going to have differences of opinion and differences of ways that we even communicate. And so I'm sorry for not... I feel like this all could have been avoided if I had spoken up, even.
Well,
you know, well, now, and let me just say one thing really fast. Is I think it's good that Jim Fest is off like, hey, I poked a wasp nest here. I get it. But also at the same token, I think sometimes some of the stuff Guatemax gets in trouble for on Twitter and things like that are a result of the fact that English is her third language. Sometimes things don't quite translate correctly and she accidentally steps on a couple of landmines. But by and large, I think it's obvious from the content that she's produced, and the content we've seen her make with us before, that there's some good stuff here. Like, you guys remember these? memes right here that you saw. Do you remember these memes? Like, these were all made by Guatemax, and you can't see them on your screens, Jim and Guatemax. But right now we're showing Chad Whitbeck, Giga L, Cardin Supreme, and just a bunch of other funny names where she's taken the guy from Under the Banner of Heaven, made it Under the Banner of Ratatouille, showing all of the first presidency and Irene on a big hill by the Y, talking about getting W's at BYU. And then here we've got a pretty hilarious meme of Buzz Lightyear that says, to infinity and beyond, nah, for time and all eternity. So obviously she's got a funny and good sense of humor, but sometimes things get lost in translation. And so far, Jim's fessed up to his part of this, but also I think Guatemax, we got to challenge you on a couple of these claims in the second half of the music video, because I think you might have had some things that you might want to revise in the next go around of this, and I think you have a couple of landmines you stepped on here, and we'll come in, we'll defend our boy Jim Bennett here. Let's finish the video so everybody else can see what we're talking about, and then we will discuss accordingly.
Oh, delightful.
Oh, yes, you look stoked out of your mind. By the way, Can I say before we continue, you look intense in this avatar on Twitter. I mean, I'm looking at this thing. Is that AI generated? Did you have
Yeah.
That's AI generated? You look like the scariest guy in a bar as part of a biker club I would never want to get involved with in my life.
And your beard is
I thought
epic.
I looked like Donald Sutherland. But so maybe that's the same thing.
I could see that. I don't know if Donald Sutherland's the scariest guy on earth, but you in this avatar are. Okay, so we're going to keep going. Let's see what's going on here.
Racist, sexist, now you gonna mess with the nest, so you better be ready for the sting for when the deseret presses. I'm so sick of progressives, Babylon worships, sex obsessives, blind to the eye of the wisdom, alive in the 15 elders of the church of the blessing. Say you, what's purpose to life? Atone for what blood and put down the Bowie knife? You believe it's all chance in the sky to eat, drink, and get married and die.
Okay, so they're calling him a big fat progno, which we kind of discussed 2 days ago.
They're calling for me to be blood atoned.
No.
Well, let's just go to Guatemax on it.
Yeah, that wasn't how I interpreted that line.
Oh, well, okay, great.
I thought it was. Oh, maybe replay that.
Yeah. Let's see.
Yeah, maybe replay that.
Well, that's not what I got. I thought they were saying that DesNet run around calling us racist, sexist. Now you're gonna mess with the nest because it's a play on words. So you better be ready for the sting. I'm so sick of progressives, and then it's got the funny crush thing. What's the purpose to life? To atone for what blood put down the bow. Yeah, he's saying that you've told them to cease being violent and bad, I think. So they were referencing it, but I don't think they were necessarily condoning it.
It seemed like
put down the Bowie knife.
It seemed like they were telling you to put down the Bowie knife.
DesNet, if you've had any interaction with DesNet,
well, should we ask Guatemax?
You know that prior to Twitter slapping them down for being violent fascists, they used to post pictures of themselves brandishing knives, threatening to slit the throats of apostates and progressives.
Is that true? I'm not familiar with that.
I will say,
it's just one user.
The kinds of images that I associated with Guatemax.
All right, so
when I called her a loon bat.
If I can have a little,
not a bag, by the way.
Okay, Quaku's gonna jump in here.
I don't know the guy's actual name, but there was an account called Haas for a while, who was popular during kind of like the COVID era, but then had a YouTube account called The Weekly Haas. I'm not kidding. I think it's still online. There's a video of him. He has a bandana over his face with sunglasses on top, dancing around with Bowie knives, and he pulls out like 13 different kinds of blades. I'm not kidding. And in one video, he had threatened me specifically with his knives.
Yeah. Yes.
So
that's what they do. That's what DesNet is.
Well, is that the one crazy guy with the?
But what was your reaction to that, Cardin?
That's the only guy, as I can clarify. As I had told Brad in a different conversation. Do you know who Cannibal Cabella is, Quaku?
Camilla
Cannibal Cabella.
Cannibal Cabella, Camilla Cabello from the show. I know who she is, definitely. Yes, I do know Cannibal Cabella now. Yes, I've had the misfortune of having his friend find me at a gym. I've had the misfortune of having him make a poll that says, should we send Kwaku back to the mental institution or back to Africa?
What?
With, like 60 votes from DesNet.
Yeah.
These are the kind of people. So yes, I do know. I only take pride in the fact that I'm in much better shape than him, so he can't really hurt my feelings that much.
So you're like Ben Shapiro when people want to call him a WP and an ethnocentrist. He said, "Wait a second, I'm the #1 target of the WSs and the ethnocentrists as a Jew."
He's I'm not sure Pacific Islander, but he's not white, so the DesNets were like, "Oh, he gets away with it." But no, I mean, it was crazy. The stuff he says was. I mean,
did people confirm he was actually a member, or was he just some mentally ill person?
He's a member of the church.
He's a member, but so Brad, can you tell him what happened? So what happened behind the scenes?
So Guatemax did her best to try to help bring together him and Kwaku to reconcile. It didn't work out, but like, I think there's a little bit of a tribalism thing going on that we can try to rise above if we can. Where like this dude, I don't think he and Guatemax are the same kind of person.
No,
right?
no. I don't think that either. This guy, there's no reconciliation of like, okay, hey, I think all dark skins are bad, even though he's also probably the same shade as me. It's weird.
He's Polynesian. What's he saying?
It's very bizarre. Anyway, his chats are leaked from these like private groups where he's openly saying, "No, yes, I legitimately do not like black people." He even tweets about it because we figured out who he was, and I tweeted, "This is who this guy actually is," and he doubles down and goes, "No, yes, I'm actually racist."
Okay.
He then pins the tweet to his profile, keeps it there after President Nelson's whole thing. So what Jim is saying has legs. This is not like
I believe Jim.
And we're not saying like what I'm looking to say here is not to say that those people don't exist. I'm saying they do exist, but that's not who Guatemax is, and that it's irresponsible for us to just say, okay, anyone that I've ever seen.
She did. We're gonna get. I think in the first two.
I need to push back on that just a little bit because I mean Guatemax may be the most delightful human being on the face of the earth in person. The only way I can judge what Guatemax believes and is what she puts on the internet. And that rap, for anybody that knows anything about DesNet, anything about the history, the Bowie knife brandishing, the celebration of blood atonement, and later on the video talks about Brigham Young did nothing wrong, which is a direct lift from the meme of Hitler did nothing wrong.
Oh, that's not fair to say.
Thanos did nothing wrong, Jim.
Fair. It is 100% fair. Because
that goes back to Thanos did nothing wrong.
Let him go. Let him go. Let him keep going.
No, it's absolutely fair. This is the thing. DesNet is so far beyond the pale of what is acceptable, not just in discourse about the church, but in public discourse, that it needs to be called out, shamed, ridiculed, and sent to the dustbin.
Okay, let me pause. Let me pause.
And
well, hold
let's
on.
assume. Oh, okay.
Well, just I'll get to you, Brad. But I'm going to read 3 comments here that I think might help guide the conversation. Right now, we had somebody say DesNats and Progmos mirror images of each other that do not represent the gospel of Jesus Christ. Britton Kemp says this is just the best thing on the internet, which is true. All right. And I would like to say, I think the first third is just funny. And Jim, watch out what you get mad at. I can't get too mad because I ended up I've got 20 pages dedicated to me on the CES letter and stuff like that. I can't get too mad or else you just empower it. I think it elevates your profile. It's kind of funny. It's a little bit play on your image. I think the last third is where I start challenging Guatemax instead of challenging you, because I think there were some misrepresentations there that are not helpful. And I do agree with you that whether or not it's intentional or not, there's some tropes that have been stolen from us. You know what I'm saying? And you have to be careful with, even when engaging in humor, which we got to give grace to comedians, because if they're called to push to the line, if they ever step past it, we can't get too pissed. We just have to coax them back, right? So we're gonna finish playing the rest of the meme, and
let's
then
watch the laugh riot.
I think you're gonna gain some traction here, Jim. Hold on.
Knife. You believe it's all chance in the sky to eat, drink, and get married and die. Inversion, y'all been tricked by the serpent in the garden with the kick into the bricks. Meanwhile, brick by brick, we be building up the body of the Lord in the mix. Repent, rebound, you made a wrong turn, you need to turn around. Yo, another foe, ammo with the fetish that you're chained to. I serve God, you chose mammon and the famine of the rod. BYDNW, I hit you with the truth and now it's funny that it troubles you. BYDNW, if you would ever follow through then you would know it too. Listen, we believe that you can repent and you can come back into the fold and try it again. This time you can build from within and dig deep the roots to keep calm in the wind.
Okay, so basically, the only thing I took issue in that whole thing, Guatemax, now we'll give the time to you, all right, and is to me, I believe, well, first off, I think it's a stretch. What, did you make this rap in 24 hours, Guatemax? Did you team up with it?
It's already existing song, which is called a diss track by a rapper, Layden Tanner.
Oh, okay. That explains it. Okay. So, because I don't know if you realize this or if this was something lost in translation, but anti-Mo obviously means anti-Mormon, just like prog-Mo means progressive Mormon. And to classify Jim Bennett as an anti-Mormon, look, I think real anti-Mormons take advantage of his diplomacy and his willingness to show up, just like he's willing to show up right here.
Yep.
I think sometimes they weaponize his empathy, okay? And I think sometimes, he's got pitfalls of his own like all of us do. But he did write the strongest rebuttal on paper to the CES letter. I think pretty much solidifies his stance as unimpeachable as not an anti-Mormon. You know what I'm saying? So was this just an AI generated phrase that you didn't catch? Or was this, what was your thoughts as you were putting that into the meme?
Well, the song was 3 years old. It's an old song.
Oh.
So it's at the beginning of the start of this, as you can say. And so, as you can say, it's basically a rebuttal video. It's not my real opinion of him, as you can see in the very tweet. I do like him. I love people, as you know also, and Brad knows. I was a DesNet. I'm not anymore. That's something I have to know. It's basically my response to his basically. It's just that's basically I'm making it real quick, real fast.
Would you say it's fair that you didn't maybe understand the gravity of because it looks like this is obviously an AI generated transcription. So were you aware that the dude was calling Jim an anti-Mormon?
Well, I was editing the video, but the thing is, it's just basically if he's gonna call me a not a loonbag, basically, it was just basically as the challenge said, is rebuttal challenge meme as I had shown.
Okay,
so you had basically challenged me in the last video.
Okay, cool. So you're saying, hey, he calls me a loonbag, I'll call him an anti-Mormon, and I'm going to level the playing field with a meme.
Yeah, basically. But as I was talking with Brad last time with Cabella, that's something that it's the Twitterverse versus the real life. In real life, we will always have differences. As I was telling Cabella, when I was telling him in DM, hey, what you did is really racist. That's something that Quaco doesn't know really. I spoke to Cabella in DMs and basically saying, what Quaco is presenting to all is just the presentation of the same same 6, even his screenshots, even the same as Jim presents. It's the same 5 individuals out of the 4,000 or 5,000 DesNets who are different. So basically, it's the public. They see that term DesNet, they see you with DesNet. That's the very first thing they see you as the music video presented.
Yeah.
But that's only the production of just a very few. As in reality, the real DesNets that we're many, we do defend the gospel, we do speak with each other. When there is evil, we do call it out. There's misconceptions. So basically, it's just a caricature, as I was speaking with Cabella. We drag the attention so that enemies focus on us. They don't focus on those who do not understand the gospel. It's something that those who don't understand the gospel, they begin to stutter. They don't know what to defend because in the church, everything, they hear about Christ's love, but do they know the history of the church? Everything. That's why a couple leave the church when they hear things like, why wasn't I told this? So we bring the attention. We are the ones who bring the weight, the heaviness of it. But that's that begin 3 years ago. So I was saying that song is 3 years old. Description as you had Quaco presented Discord screenshots you're presenting the same individuals, the same guys. As Cabella, he's also one of the original guys, Gibby and others, the same individuals. But
okay, so I've never.
I think Jim had. I think Jim should respond first.
Yes,
I can
hit it.
Until it's
Jim.
I don't know of any former member of the church, critic of the church, enemy of the church, who does more damage to the church than DesNet does. I don't know of anybody who misunderstands the fundamental principles of the gospel of Jesus Christ than DesNet does. I think you drive more people out of the church, away from the church. You give the church the worst possible image online, more so than John DeLynn or Bill Reel or anybody else could ever possibly dream or hope to have. If people's image of the church is idiots with Bowie knives threatening to kill you, and in the video, I don't know if we've gotten there because I can't watch it, but you've got at least 5 seconds of Orrin Rockwell with a revolver pointed right at my face.
Whoops, sorry about that.
Well, let's ask her. Was it at his face?
Let's talk about that. And I'm not going to get into John DeLynn saying that I'm worried. I'm not calling the FBI. I don't think my life is in danger. But I think using that kind of imagery and saying that that kind of imagery is representative of the restored gospel of Jesus Christ is so reprehensible and so beyond the pale of what a disciple of Jesus Christ is supposed to do and supposed to think, that whether or not you, Guatemax, personally believe that, the fact that you are willing to associate with people who believe that, you are willing to use a hashtag that is attached to the worst possible people who believe that. And in the world, everybody recognizes that hashtag as representative of that kind of satanic bias.
Okay, hey, Jim.
It is incomprehensible.
Okay, well, hold on.
We would discuss this in terms of, well, golly, yes. Well, Jim, you stepped out of line by calling her a loon bat. And, Guatemax, you stepped out of line by, pointing a gun and
let's.
There's no equivalence here. And DesNet is a cancer and at the heart of the church. And one of the reasons why I almost stood up and applauded in the choir loft when I heard President Nelson speak, I did audibly say thank you when he said the one sentence about if someone in your ward gets a divorce, or a teenager doubts his testimony, or a missionary comes home early, they do not need your judgment. And everybody around turned around when I said, thank you.
Okay.
Because I saw that talk as a direct repudiation of everything, this rap, everything that DesNet stands for. I would have loved it if he had called out DesNet by name, but there was no mistaking his intent.
Okay.
His intent was, these people who think they're defending the church are doing so much more harm to the church than anybody outside of the church could possibly do, because it's coming from the inside.
Oh, no.
Because it's the example that we're saying, this is who we are, world. This is who Latter-day Saints are. We're people who slit throats of people with Bowie knives. Not all of us do it. Some of us do it.
Okay,
but not
Jim.
all of us are terrible racists.
Jim.
Jim,
is the rant? Is that
only some of us?
Maybe the rant?
Hold on. Okay, Jim.
Come on, guys.
Yes.
There has to be a line. There has to be. No, this is not acceptable. This is not behavior that we can condone on any level.
Okay.
Thank you. That's what I had to say.
Yes. I very much agree with like 90% of what you said. However, we got to be able to respond to some of these things here, okay? And there's some other people that want to jump in here. Brad.
Okay. There was a lot. I would have liked to respond a little bit sooner. I kept it going.
Okay.
There's a couple of things that I want to say about this. First off, President Nelson's talk was actually very much aimed at you also, Jim, and it was aimed at me. Mm-hmm. It was aimed at every single one of us individually. I also believe it was aimed at DesNet. We need to universally apply these things, and we need to get into a space where we don't use the labels that other people are using and then deny their humanity and forget that they're children of God, because that robs us of our ability to interact with them in a way that's actually going to correct their behavior. Like we talked about in the more recent live stream we just did, it becomes very easy for us if we start getting into this us versus them thinking to then be like, you know what? I'm willing to condemn these people and push them away and say they're bad and horrible and evil people, which ultimately harms our ability to even interact in a way that will get us all on the same page, right?
No, it doesn't. Not if the people
you
are
had a
beyond-
long time
Can I
to
finish,
talk, Jim?
Jim?
You had a long time to
Can I
talk.
finish?
You can finish.
Okay, then
Sure, you
don't,
can
please
finish.
don't interrupt.
You sure you don't want to go back into politics?
Just a second.
Stop
So,
it, Luke.
Here's
on.
the thing that I'm trying to get across with this, Jim. We need to make sure that we're not throwing out condemnation and making snap judgments of people based around whatever's happening, because it's kind of similar to what happened. The comment that ended up lumping you in with the thing that I can't say about what would have happened in the temple, that's, I think, kind of a bit of a similar thing to what's going on here with you and your perception of Guatemax. She's not out here with Bowie knives. She's not out here with like the gun thing with the meme. That's are you familiar with image flip, Jim? Do you know what that is?
I don't care what it is.
It's a meme making platform that's used by younger people all the time. It's
what?
I think this is a generation gap
he's
thing to a
saying-
certain
No,
degree.
it's not.
Can
A
I
gun pointed
finish?
at somebody's
Can I
face
finish,
has
Jim?
nothing to do
Can I
with
finish, or
generation.
are you going to just keep on cutting me off? I didn't cut you
I'll
off.
keep on cutting you off if you keep on saying things like this to me in order to be able to pick a fight.
I'm not
no.
trying to pick a fight. I'm trying to explain my
No,
point.
do you want to know? I don't care what meme flip is. I care that somebody's pointing a gun in my face. I
Okay,
don't care
well,
what
hold
flip
on,
it is.
Jim.
You can
Jim,
do it.
I think in Brad's defense here, what he's trying to say is a lot of these things that may be difficult for you to understand that you're checking out at face value, like a picture of Orrin Porter Rockwell holding a stylized pistol, is a lot like the people that started gasping when Quentin Tarantino made Kill Bill and the whole entire floor on Kill Bill was covered with blood and there was people putting nunchucks with mace in the air. It's kind of a stylized violence that he was famous for and actually become part of mainstream culture to such a degree that people would make memes of it. And then to get angry at that might unfortunately have a kickback on you rejecting an aspect of commonly understood aspects of pop culture. And I think it's fair to say that that's not
But we're not talking about pop culture. We're talking about the gospel of Jesus Christ. When was the last time you saw a Quentin Tarantino video posted in general conference? When was the last time you saw Quentin Tarantino's violence used to represent the principles of the gospel and defend the church?
Musket.
People recognize that a Quentin Tarantino video is demonstrating a sort of violent fantasy that is appropriate in a certain context,
So
and certainly not appropriate in a gospel context.
Can I finish my point yet?
Introducing that kind of violence into a gospel context is reprehensible. There is not common ground to say,
okay.
oh gosh, well maybe you're just a little too old to realize that we should be pointing guns.
No, it's not that you're a little bit too old, but I think
stylized. It's okay.
I think.
I mean, I realize I'm really heated here, and I realize that I'm jumping down your throats, but where we seem to be going in order so that we can hug this all out at the end is you're trying to create some kind of moral equivalence. And if Jim Bennett will just give a little and Guatemax will just give a little, by the end of this, we're all going to be friends and everybody's going to go home happy.
Well,
the fact of the matter is, yes, Brad, President Nelson was talking to me. President Nelson was talking to you.
Yes.
President Nelson was talking to Guatemax.
Yes.
And right after President Nelson's talk, I went on Twitter and I said, that's the best talk I've ever heard. I stand convicted and I resolve to do better.
Okay.
And I absolutely believe that.
Mm-hmm.
At the same time, there is such a difference of scale, a difference, exponential difference.
Okay, but hold on a second. Everybody,
the way I've behaved wrongly and the way DesNet behaved.
Oh, okay, but Jim,
and I'm not going to give you an ounce of ground on that.
Okay,
and I'm
Jim,
going to push
Jim.
back on that
Okay,
with
Jim.
as much fire as I possibly can muster.
And that's what I did too.
Okay, Jim.
See, I see that what you do. So let me tell you, you have spoken now. So let me talk. So let's follow actual conversation rules. So in Nelson's words, let's be friends, basically what he says. Not let's see what we have in common. That's basically what he said. It's we have to know that we are all siblings and sisters and brothers of children of God. We will always have different mentalities, different ways of doing things, but we will try to correct each other. And for this, well, it's something that I noticed in the video. Is DesNet was something that I had done was in the past, but that's something that you brought up. That's something that wasn't mentioned in the chat. So that's a past that you brought in as an instant finger pointer.
Okay, now hold on.
Something that
Okay, I got to jump in here and say this because it's relevant to all of our viewers here, and it's a frustration that's getting expressed in the chat. And Jim, I also think it will help contextualize the argument that Brad's trying to make, and I'm going to throw back to Brad so he can finish his thought, okay? I think the frustration is all of us feel when I did it. Oh, you're muted. You're accidentally.
Jim, I think you hit mute on your computer.
Jim, you hit mute on your computer on accident. Nobody can hear you. Jim, you hit mute accidentally.
I know. Okay. I'm talking to my wife, who's pointing out that I probably shouldn't have jumped into this conversation.
Well, we're coming around. We're coming around. All I'm saying is that
I missed a whole lot of what was said, but I'm starting to realize that my wife is much wiser than I am.
No, but we love you because you're crazy like us, man. So all I'm saying is I think all of us feel like when they do it, it was far worse than when I did it. That's a psychological principle called the fundamental attribution error.
No. There is no equivalence here.
Jim, I'm not trying to make a.
No equivalence here.
I'm not trying to make a more.
We're gonna agree with you on things Guatemax did wrong. If we could just get past this part really fast. So let Brad speak. Luke, you speak, and then we're gonna go talking to Guatemax because so far it's been all with Jim Bennett, and I don't want to feel that like he's on trial for a second time. We're just trying to provide some context here. So Brad, finish your thought. Luke, finish your thought, and then we're gonna talk with Guatemax. Okay?
Yeah. The core of what I'm trying to get across, Jim, if you care to listen, is that there's a difference in intent and meaning that I think is just a generational thing. There's
it's not.
Yes, it absolutely is.
I generation.
This has nothing to do with generation. This has to do with basic.
It absolutely does. It's the reason I brought up image flip in the first place. The gun itself is such a common thing that it's literally something you can just add to any meme within image flip.
It's like Thug Life.
Probably add a naked woman to a meme.
No. It's like there's like three things. There was
that doesn't make it.
There was a gun. There was a sunglasses thing.
It is to do something evil.
No. Jim, what I'm trying to illustrate to you is that this is a common cultural thing that doesn't carry violent connotations. This was like a meme thing that I think is
carry violent connotations.
Okay, I don't think we're convincing Jim anytime soon, but
no, you're not.
We're definitely just trying to suggest.
We need to wrap this up because I have to go walk my dog.
No, I get it. But all we're trying to say is that we're suggesting that there might have been some cultural context here that went unread that Guatemax was not anticipating. Because if her intent was to do a future music video of your funny Javelin Man thing by showcasing her talent to make fun of a trope of Progmo Jim, I think it fell wrong. I think there were definitely some stuff that went bad, but Kwaku and then Luke.
I've got it. As the guy here who's had the figurative guns pointed at him most by DesNet, I'm gonna chime in. Here's what I think. I think we're all coming at this from our different perspectives. Brad has probably spent more time communicating with Guatemax than anybody else in here, so he sees her as his friend he would like to defend and not have her, showcased to the world as an NAZI. Jim is coming from the perspective of she was in the recent past associated with a hashtag that has advocated a number of things that you would end up on the FBI watch list had you done in real life. I'm coming at this from the perspective of somebody who was attacked ruthlessly for weeks on end for multiple periods of time by this group. And I think Brad's point, I think it holds weight. I think it would hold a little more weight if we were discussing only speech but not thoughts. And when I see DesNet, I don't see them advocating just words. I don't see it as shiz posting. I see them expressing their actual thoughts, which corrupt Mormon scripture, in which advocate a lot of heartache. And that is what Jim is seeing the most, which is why he's not allowing any level ground, because there is a difference in saying, oh, I made a shiz account to make jokes about black people or Mexicans or what have you. And then there's I made that account because this is what I think, and I want more people to interpret the scriptures this way. That is what I think DesNet does. And because of that, it seems very clear why Jim is not moving at all, and Brad is trying to communicate what he thinks, because he's trying to protect his friend, who is not one of those people.
Yeah, it's like, Jim, the people who are trying to say that you were involved in pushing for the horrible thing we mentioned earlier in the temple, they're absolutely incorrect. And in the same way, I think Guatemax is not trying to like inspire racism in people and inspire violence of any kind. She's was making what she viewed as a funny meme. You know, that's the way that I read it.
Now, in Jim's defense, I only saw the first third. So when I heard that there was like, you know, people getting pissed about a meme on the internet, I thought, okay, whatever. They always get pissed. You know what I'm saying? In the middle third,
and calling him an anti-Mormon is not good because
yeah. So let's switch now
because
we
it's
only
wrong.
Got 10
He's
minutes
not an
left.
anti-Mormon.
We only got 10 minutes left. I promise, Jim, this would be less than an hour. All right. So with all of that said, okay, I think it's fair to say we've pointed out maybe some generational issues, entertainment issues, stylistic issues, so on and so forth. However, at the same token, I feel Guatemax has probably been a massive learning experience. I don't think you realized there's 2 beehives that will sting you. There's apparently the DesNet beehive that has its own subreddit minions, all right, or the Twitter minions. But so does the Progmo Exmo subreddit machine has its own minions that will come out and make your life miserable if you're not very, very careful where the landmines are. And the only 2 things that made me feel like, ooh, I wouldn't have done that was calling Jim an anti-Mo. To me, that just like, it's not even funny. I don't mind calling him Progmo Jim as a trope because people call me Boomer Cardin. And we all have to deal with polygamous jokes when we get introduced to new friends who don't really know anything about Mormons. And it's a groaner and we all deal with it. I think had that been as far as the claim went, Jim probably would have been just fine because he's a big boy and a tough guy. And I love him as a brother. But calling him an anti-Mormon, I think that was a little bit of a flop. And we have to be really careful with the muskets analogy. Like, unless you're really going for like the overture of 1812 with muskets or something super funny like that, we got to be careful with that because whether we like it or not, that word has kind of been stolen. You know, you do have to lean into the meme a little bit. I get it. But I feel like that was kind of stolen a little bit. So Jim's right here in the sense of that the back half of that I don't feel was unimpeachable. And I have a feeling if your intent was to showcase talent and say, hey, I want to do a funny music video of Javelin Man, that you actually stepped on a landmine that I can empathize with Guatemax. Because when we first did the head of John DeLynn on Baphomet, do you remember that, Kwaku? When we made that funny 2-frame meme in This Is the Show, and then he posted it as his social media profile. At first, I thought he was running with it, and I thought we were going to kind of have this fun meme war. All right? I was actually very hopeful.
I'm going to leave.
Okay. Oh, do you got to go?
I got to go.
All right. Do your thing, man. We'll see you on the next one. We'll continue with Guatemax here. So I think
Can I just point out a funny comment that just popped up?
Hit it.
So Guatemax got to talk so little that we have somebody in the chat confused about who the chick at the bottom of the screen is. She's Guatemax.
That's funny.
So apologies for that, I guess, from me.
Yeah, sorry.
That was very frustrating.
Yeah.
Even with you a little bit, Cardin, you kept putting Brad and Kwaku ahead of me.
Yes.
Trying to tell Jim something for half an hour there. Yeah, so
okay.
So that was frustrating.
Something I need to clarify is that that's the point of memes. They're meant to trigger dank memes, basically. He got triggered, that it worked. So he will not change his mentality. It's something that, well, if I see me satanic, I find what he does, what others do as satanic. And it's something that, well, it was just a response to what he had told me with something in the past, but it's something that it's a position that, although I will not be able to change his position on that stance of what he knows. So what things that he said of me? Well, I am against the progressive. So he said what he reference of. He didn't actually tell you guys what things I did as DesNet a long while ago.
Okay,
right?
well
That's something that
also,
you guys don't know, really.
okay, but Guatemax, isn't it kind of fair on Jim's behalf? Isn't it kind of fair to say, hey, you should know your audience? And if you were to do this about Brad with some image flip thing, or do this about Kwaku with some image flip thing, I think we'd understand and contextualize it and get the joke more. But definitely with older members of the church, they're not going to get this stuff. They don't sing Justin Bieber songs in church. They don't know
it's not the meme itself. I'm talking about what he teaches as he thinks is loving, which is actually satanic. So my audience in Twitter, which I posted there, consists of my following, which is 90 to 99% of DesNet, full on DesNet, and the same people who went after Kwaku are also my followers, my friends. I was actually friends with Haas before, so it's something that it was aimed at them. It was a challenge, but in short, what he is angry about, which I cannot change, but what I can do change is which I'm no longer, don't longer use DesNet, which I no longer am. Was a long while. It's also Brad knows that's something, that conversation with what has happened with Kwaku, that no sites even, which is something that I don't want to talk about religiously also on Twitter anymore, because also on the other sides just bashing, Twitter sphere, bashing, constant bashing, this is basically my last product, my last meme, in short. But it's something that, as the prophet has said, it's in ending contention. It's something that will. It's so hard to do in a modern age right now. So far now, it's so easy to click. But if you don't speak, if you don't satisfy my views, you are my enemy. Something quick. So even if I went lovingly to him, like, hey, I don't like it, he's still gonna say the same things. You did this, not what you are doing now. How are you now? That's one of the things that I don't like about this. The very first thing that he said, oh, she's a DesNet. He said, that guy is a DesNet loon. He doesn't know that I was a woman also. Just DesNet loon. But basically, he portrayed me like that. Okay, my response to the little segment is another little segment, a quick meme. But something that we'll never see. It's basically, okay, yes, he got triggered. That's the whole point of it. It's a meme response. Distract. That's something. That's the difference between me and other individuals. Is that if I'm gonna respond, it's gonna be in a way that it's gonna. Well, that's why I was DesNet in the first place.
Okay, just like I kind of think sometimes with Jim and others, some things gets lost in generational translation. I think Guatemax, some of the things that Jim was legitimately frustrated with, I can kind of
guns.
I can kind of understand.
That's the imagery that we use constantly, memes.
No, not the meme flip.
Discord emojis, like, here, do this, there's a gun. Yeah, but a little cartoon character holds a gun. It's not a threat, it's just saying, hey, listen to me and listen, pay attention. Okay, well, I think like maybe he's there might be some generational blind spots with him. I think there seems to be some kind of cultural and linguistic blind spots with you, because some of this stuff I could see being a little bit too obvious for me to have it fly underneath the comedy radar. And I don't know. Am I going wrong with this one? Okay. It's a song, so for the melody to flow, I just use the rest of other portion of the song, basically.
So if to push back here a little, I probably would say I'm leaning more into Jim's side of, because it's not as if Guatemax was using like Twitter stake or kind of a neutral hashtag. I mean, the DesNet hashtag is so poisoned. There are articles in the Daily Beast and others about this. I mean, when the general world sees DesNet, they think NAZI. That's what they think. He was absolutely right that it is not leading anybody into the church. It's only making us look bad. It is harmful to the missionary efforts of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So when it has its history of using violent imagery, and then the door comes off and we realize it's not a couple of teenagers screwing around, it's 30, 40, 50-year-old men who then have these actually pernicious beliefs that they admit openly to the public when the leaks come out. There does seem to be an association of guilt that has some legs. So I see where Jim is coming from, because I mean, the worst things that the John DeLynns do. If I was someone who was interested in looking into the church and I watched an hour of Mormon stories and then I read a DesNet Twitter thread, I would be far more horrified for the DesNet Twitter thread than I would the Mormon stories. So, I mean, I see where Jim is coming from. I have been on the receiving end of a lot of DesNet attacks, and I have personally witnessed their what's the opposite of well wishing? their evil wishing of me multiple times. It is not something you can give any sort of. There is no equivalency. There really isn't. I think he was incredibly frustrated trying to get this across because you weren't equalizing it, Brad, but I think the way you were speaking led him to think that. Mm-hmm. And I think, Cardin, you were kind of equalizing it a little bit, which didn't help in Brad's case at all. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it's the bad guys versus good guys.
Yeah,
Guatemax isn't a bad guy, but she was her camp for a while, 100%. If this is the outsiders, okay, she did not have Ponyboy Curtis on her side. Okay, she had the bad guys for sure, and it's good that you stepped away. But reasonable people who see you then add this DesNet meme in will immediately think, okay, she's still with them. Even if she's removed the hashtag, she's associating with it, she's retweeting it, and even if you condemn and say, hey, Cabea, Haas, whoever, you should not have said that, that doesn't do much because they believe it.
Yeah, that's something that I had spoken with him. In 2 video meetings, he told me that the difference with the other members, he's the only one that's honest, as you notice. He's replies and everything. He's the only one that's actually said, well, I do not care. I will not do this. I was speaking with Brad, and even in the chat, he did not follow through, basically. So that's something that, yes, you are right. That is truth. That is something, that's a reality of it. Now, it's also that what you said is we cannot equalize it. Well, that's the other thing about why DesNet rose. Because, yes, it is the equivalence to what Jim is doing in Twitter, as he said, a couple are commenting. He doesn't do that here on the chat or in videos, but what he acts is actually really, really bad. And it's basically what the left world is doing is they're swaying people away. What you think Quaker said is to be less worse. It's actually spiritual murder versus just a overall visual of, hey, here's a bowie knife, here's a musket, metaphorical, here's a picture, versus one that's telling you, hey, you can change your gender. You can stop doing stuff until the church changes. That's actually what we think is worse. And it's basically the equivalent just to grab their attention, bash on each other, which it's obviously, there's small camps, but the bigger camp is attracting more. Well, this one's just trying to get attention. So it's all a bashing together of things that Jim will not, he does not agree with me. The first thing he says, oh, I don't like her. So that's something that he has made clear with all this time conversing here. But what he's doing basically, it's not something that in the podcast, he refused to elaborate to define love. But in his tweets, he condemns everyone who says, hey, I like my fellow LGBT members, but I do not like what they do. And then he quickly attacks, bashes, replies, tweets. That is not one of the reasons why he don't want to define love here live stream. Is because he is a different being on Twitter to this day. Those screenshots that I showed you.
Guatemax, not to interrupt, but do you think you're doing justice to Jim's tweets here in a fairly, because the tweets I have seen did not say, I love my LGBT brothers and sisters, but I disagree with temple ceilings or a change of doctrine. It seems he's replying to like the Leave Utah tweet where it says,
I'm going to say my
gay as
experience
AIDS,
disproves
right?
that.
Like, well, but also remember, you're not DesNet.
No, but he called me that.
No.
So
I'm telling you why they think that way. That's something that I can tell you why they think that way. It says this guy speaking versus one that actually full on presented. One is hidden, one is presented. You can see one, but the other hides. He said Christ victim. So that's something that I can tell you guys about why DesNet is there present. Why I told you in the very beginning, it is there to grab your eyes, grab their attention. Where the innocent member that does not know how to defend the gospel they're not attacked, they're not bashed.
Okay.
Those that do, the big guys go to those, the big fish go to those, while the others who take a quick panic, instant panic, go to those ones. So that's something that's in the Twitter sphere, yes, expected to be what they do, continue doing to keep on triggering people, which is also why my last name. It is that's basically the song itself, 3 years old. It is the
Okay.
it is the way it is spoken like it.
So Guatemax, I just want to address two things here that I think Kweku's getting at. Is one, I'm not sure that your definition of triggered is the same as the general public's definition of triggered. Usually when we say, oh, that triggered him, it's a dismissive way of saying he was unnecessarily concerned. Whereas I could see from Jim's perspective how one could be necessarily concerned by some of the things he saw. So I think it is unfair to be that dismissive. Now, at the same token, I think we have to give large swaths of grace to comedians, because in our society, comedians like you, comedians like me, like Kweku, like Brad, it's our job to go right up to that line and push observational truths in the face of people in a way that makes them laugh. Oh, whoops, did we just lose her?
Oh, did it cut out?
Well, I pay for the regular Zoom.
Did her like computer shut off or something?
I think that was actually her. Yeah.
Oh, maybe her.
Yeah, I think her
internet connection dropped.
was lost.
Her bedroom door had one of those like old school wooden, like BYU South of Campus doors. And when I lived in one of those complexes, the electricity would shut off randomly all the time.
Okay. So anyway, it's fine because we were going to have to end here anyway. We're already 8 minutes over here. So I was just going to say, like, we'll just do a little debrief here with just us four.
Is it all right if I say my piece finally?
Yes.
It's
yes.
been about 45 minutes now.
Say your piece. Say your piece, and then we'll do a final end here.
So I actually agree, and I'm going to kind of talk to Jim and Guatemax like they're here because I'm assuming that they'll agree. I agree with you, Jim, basically on all your points of contention against Guatemax. I wouldn't make it as extreme as you do, and I'm sure you can say, oh, well, about that, and just dismiss what I'm going to say after this because I gave that qualifier. But I totally agree. And Guatemax, you reached out to us on the Cougar Chronicle, and you said, can you retweet this? I want to get this out there more. And I decided not to. That was a line I was not willing to cross, especially on the Cougar Chronicle, putting that out there, that level of triggering content, as you would put it. That being said, Jim completely lost me at the beginning. I was willing to go on his side, and I still am on his side in this thing in many ways. But Jim, you lost me because, and we're seeing this in the chat a lot, multiple people, including a good friend of mine who's a gay Latter-day Saint member, faithful member of the church, you have blocked for trying to engage you in productive conversation. And then you go on about the time that I'm messaging you and call 19 out of 20 people on LDS Twitter terrible people, awful people. Now, earlier in the conversation, you set the standard that people should be expected to maintain the same level of reducing contention. And because some people see Twitter, it's just a silly space, so it doesn't really matter. But at the beginning of this live stream, you said you basically hold people to the same standard on Twitter that you do meeting them in person. And it's not okay to be a little more edgy on Twitter than it is in person. Okay, so let's hold you to that same standard. 19 out of 20 people, presumably you're talking about all the people you blocked, including this faithful gay Latter-day Saint member of the church and myself. And when
we already worked that out on Friday, didn't we?
No. But this is why he has, Jim, you have no credibility with me, and I think for a lot of people in the chat to say these things because you're not holding yourself to the standard.
I wouldn't say no credibility. He's a very credible person.
Because one thing for me, see, I'm acknowledging that I am
that
bringing my biases into this.
Okay.
Having been called a terrible person for asking me a question.
But you already forgave him for that. We hugged that out, dog.
I do. He didn't say
okay, so you can't be pissed anymore.
No, I'm saying he can't be pissed if he's going to do this
stuff
and continue to do it.
Okay, Brad.
So one thing I want to say, first off, Jim Bennett is not an anti-Mormon. So anyone who thinks that is not the case. He's a good guy, and he's been a very good example to me of grace. He reached out to us when This Is the Show was blowing up, and blowing up in our faces. and he actually talked to us and tried to understand what was going on with us and was kind to us in a way that almost nobody else was. I've seen him extend grace to so many people in such a good, positive way that he's been a solid example to me of what I would aspire to be like in making sure that I am striving to understand others well. I do think there may be something going on here that I've kind of seen myself do before, where like he can go out for burgers with Jeremy Runnels to try to fix something because he understands Jeremy Runnels has something different with him. But you've seen me do this, Carden, where I get angrier at the people who are ostensibly on my side and then don't act the way that I think they should be acting. I give them way less grace when it's like...
Because they're accessible.
Not because they're accessible, but because I expect more of them. You know, they say they live the same covenants as me.
Yeah, you're aware of the covenants that they made and what the rule book is.
Exactly.
Like,
and so
okay.
I feel like there may be some aspect of that I think brings a justifiable aspect to. I can see why Jim would think this. I just think it is something to put behind us so that we can strive to be better at extending the same level of understanding we would to someone like Jeremy Runnels, to somebody who might even say they're at DesNet, so that we can understand them and then say, hey, what do you actually mean by that? And where are you coming from? So that we can get on the same page and treat each other as children of God. Because I think that's what Jim wants to do. He strikes me as the kind of man who wants to treat everyone the way Jesus would.
Yeah.
He's not some anti-Mormon or progmo trying to inject the doctrines of men into the church. I don't think he's trying to do that.
Yeah.
Well, the thing, Jim hasn't hurt missionary efforts of the church, and I do think if we're comparing both worlds in this, the DesNet versus the Jim Bennett world, because we can't really say he's a progmo because he's not. He's a little left leaning on the Orthodox side, but he's not progmo. But the Jim Bennett style isn't hurting the missionary efforts of the church. The DesNet style is hurting the missionary efforts of the church.
It's more easily weaponized by those that hate us because it's like there's crimes of omission and commission, and it's the crimes of commission that are easiest ones to point out and say, oh, look, that's bad. Yeah.
Here's an example. An anti-Mormon tweeted all the scriptures in the Book of Mormon that dealt with skin color and said, these are all the racist Mormon scriptures, right? I think it was like an evangelical.
Okay.
Oh.
One of the big DesNet accounts had the opportunity here to say, no, that's not what we believe, and had a litany of Fair Mormon, BYU Studies, Interpreter Foundation, Mormoner, a ton that they could have said, no, this is actually what this means. Instead, they quote tweeted and said, this is based if true. And then there were replies to it all about how blacks are actually cursed, and each reply was getting 30, 40 likes, all from faithful members of the church. So, I mean, that is directly harming the missionary efforts.
Yeah,
of the church, right?
and people should not be doing that.
And so
they shouldn't be supporting that kind of thing.
Exactly. That's what Jim is seeing, right? That's what Jim's seeing. And so on Guatemax's end, she's saying, oh well, what he's saying is spiritual destruction. I don't think it is. I would argue what they're doing is spiritual destruction on many different sides.
It's difficult for me to have the guy that wrote the best rebuttal to the CES letter say that, like, him having too large of a definition of love that's easily exploitable by enemies of the church is satanic. This though is where I feel sorry for Guatemax a little bit, just because I don't know how much of that is lost in translation. Like, she kept on saying, oh, well, he was just triggered. Oh, he was just triggered.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't think she's understanding what that means. And if she's engaging in media creation with trigger words as somebody where English is her third language, man, that is literally like walking through a minefield without a roadmap. And I want to give her the biggest benefit of the doubt possible.
When you're engaged in a subtopic of a subtopic of a subtopic in that community on your third language. That's why I have lashed into DesNet before by their first names. I didn't call her by her first name in this because I'm not going to be the guy picking on a Guatemalan a girl 2 years younger than me on social media because of her videos she made. Like, I'm not going to do that. And I do think perhaps there is some.
Here's the thing. I think what happened with her was she got called out on a public show, right? And she was basically accused of being just crazy, a psycho, right? And so she responded with a meme that I think was trying to be a thing that would make light of the situation in a way, and then it just blew up. And I don't know. It's hard for me to watch because I want for all of us to be able to try to understand each other's intent, you know? And I don't think that Guatemax had any bad intent in making the thing that she made. And that we need to figure out how we in the church are going to really be able to love one another. This is really kind of the core of all of our conversation here with Jim, with Guatemax, with you when we had the initial trial of Jim Bennett. And I feel bad that we weren't able to reconcile everything with everybody on the podcast. And I feel bad about frustrating Jim and for getting frustrated myself because I'm short. But like the key of it is if we're going to love one another, we need to be better at understanding one another.
Yeah. And my only frustration was, and by the way, we're going to see if we can't get Guatemax back in here. Apparently, I guess she doesn't have the Zoom that you pay for or whatever, so it looks like probably just cut her off at the 59-minute mark. You know what I'm saying? But what I wanted around the corner, too, was just like, hey, I think we've got a couple of things that are getting lost in translation here. Some of it might be generational, as Brad suggested. Some of it, I think, might be translational, as I suggested, so on and so forth. And I do think Guatemax was in the wrong on some things here. But she's also a young girl that looks like she was interested in hopefully doing a funny video of Javelin Man. So I don't know if I'm a fool for having tried to believe that through some good conversation we could all just work it out and be examples of Christ-like forgiveness and atonement on YouTube. But I was going to suggest that she make him that music video for free as a form of penance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I was going to say, hey, look, if she makes you this music video for free and I'll even help produce it, you know what I'm saying? And then we could have a conversation with her and be like, hey, well, if you say you're an ex-DesNet, you know, don't be making their memes for them. Like, you can't say 99% of your audience is, but then say that, oh, you know, that's not my thing anymore. It's like, I think she's not realizing, I think she's getting taken advantage of by some people. And I think she's stepping on landmines that are unnecessary. But I think by her body language and by her speech that it was obvious that she did not expect to communicate what Jim was feeling. And I think Jim is is not unreasonable in his evaluation of this. So anyway, she's back. Yes, say your thing, Luke, and then I'm going to get Guatemax back in.
Just to help the conversation, this might be another blind spot that I might be able to bring in that it seems like is popping up in the chat a lot, is not a lot of people know DesNet.
Hey.
Does it
work?
Yeah,
yes, you're in.
When I met with the Cougar Chronicle and we talked about DesNet at some point, the word came up. Basically, everybody in the room said, "What the heck is that?" And some people in the chat are saying the same thing. If I go and talk to my family, they're probably going to say the same thing. So Jim knows what he's talking about, and Quaku, you know what you're talking about when you're talking about DesNet. But then these other people are like, DesNet, what is that? And if they haven't seen that in their wards, if their friends that they haven't seen that in their wards, it sounds like you're just yelling at the clouds about something that doesn't even exist, or at least is so small that it's like, why is this a big deal to you? And personally, and maybe this is something that I could be educated on, but personally, I don't really see DesNet as that big of a deal, not because they don't say terrible things, but because it's so small. That dude he was talking about with the Bowie knives and the bandana and all that, I researched that RFM video that Cardin sent to me where they talked about this recently, a couple months ago. It had like 4 likes or something. Well, I'm not going to get worked up about a post that has 4 likes on Twitter.
To be fair, you can Google what is DesNet and you will find a million articles about it if you want to like kind of go through that rabbit hole.
Well, I tried on Twitter. I scrolled and scrolled and scrolled. Google. Well, I know, but like
on the Salt Lake Tribune, they did a study, and no, it is not. It is found that none of the hashtag on it is not affiliated with any hate group in general. It's just the hashtag use. So as you said, yes, it is a minimal. It's just a Twitter tag with some individuals out. It's so small that even my familiar says, "What's that?" It's just something at the moment.
Remember, it's
something I was saying also there.
It was quite bigger before, but that was when the big accounts started getting doxxed.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That song is 3 years old. It's It's just it's an old song with the old.
Well, the hashtag is like
specification.
4 years old at this point.
I tried to find out what it was in early 2021, and I could hardly find anything on Twitter about it.
Oh, I was seeing it everywhere.
Okay.
I mean, the Daily Beast, Deseret News, a number of different people have. In fact, the first time the hashtag was actually being used was by an account. There was 3 accounts that were using it back in 2019, I believe, or 2018. And that was thought to be apocryphal until the DesNet Exposed people dug it up and found the first time. And the Wife with a Purpose account, Ayla Stewart, to this day, the only social media account to ever be called out by the church directly is Wife with a Stewart,
Really?
Wife with a Purpose, because she was going to speak at the Unite the Right rally. Christmas Eve or December, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints issues an actual public statement saying, we don't like anything this person's saying. Okay? The church doesn't do that. You know, if it's going to freak out the apostles at 6 p.m., they have to put out a statement about a social media. They'll never do it. They let this show go. So that just shows you how far they're willing to accept it. It's been around for a long time. When DesNet Exposed, the kind of Antifa people started going after them, DesNet quieted down a lot because these people were getting X'd as the Assistant Attorney General of Alaska, people who worked for banks. And the people who worked for banks were tweeting anti-Semitic stuff, that's like tweeting about how much you hate black people when you work for the NBA. I don't know why you would do that, right? It's not great. So all these things together.
You also might have just stepped on a landmine with that analysis yourself. But, we'll see.
What? No, that's what they were saying. They were saying these people who work for banks that are literally owned by Jewish families. Like legitimately owned by Jewish families. Why would you do that? So it's like, I get it. It's hard to figure out some of these things now, especially with the mass purge that happened right before Elon took over. And now, and the top guys have all been, their lives are kind of over.
I think what would help me understand the gravity or not gravity of DesNet would be to point to actual results instead of like, look, here's a picture of somebody with a knife. Like, okay.
What do you mean by results?
Well, like, because
there's no actual dialogue to actually solve problems, but it was just bashing, basically.
Jim's saying DesNet is such a massive problem, it's pulling so many people away from the church. Like, okay, so could you there was an assistant general of Alaska that posted 3 things. Like,
well, I'll give you here's a real life example.
None of my family are on Twitter. Like, right. I don't know if people outside of Twitter realize how much Twitter is not real life.
Well, I'll give you this example.
Not.
So you're suggesting that maybe we are hyper aware, and so
I think my mom's on, my dad, my grandparents, none of my siblings who are all younger than me. I don't know of any of my aunts and uncles that are on this thing.
The Provo Police Department
only a few of the people in the Cougar Chronicle who are like very tuned into like this is Twitter. LDS is not a representative of LDS.
I'll tell you this. I can tell you directly. The Provo Police Department monitors DesNet, and it was freaked out by them.
Well, yeah,
I haven't looked into their
papers. They monitor all sorts of people, and that's good.
But you can say it clearly is a little bit more than just a couple of people playing video games.
And I'm not saying
like,
that, but it's more like saying if you're going to say that it's one of the most destructive forces in the whole church, I need some slight bit of data points other than, well, there's been things that might indicate that there might be a problem at some point. So the Provo City.
I see what he's saying. I don't think we need the data points. I mean, your eyes we can.
I'm not saying it's not bad. Yeah, I'm just saying, is it really that serious?
I understand Jim's point, and I understand your point as well. This is a thing where it's like, if DesNats were a much larger group that was like actually militant and inspiring violence among Latter-day Saints,
Antifa,
it would absolutely be the worst thing, the worst PR for the church ever, right?
It will first be in Spanish. That's what I can tell you. It will. All of my familiars back home would be in Spanish. It would be even worse, but it's not. It's something that. It's just an English presentation. As you can see, it's more imagery. We're using threats. I'm an immigrant, basically, refugee, coming here. So what Jim says, I'm only here because I was challenged by Cardon to make a meme. Tomorrow, I use 24 hours. Okay, produce something more musical. Okay, it's a musician, a diss track of something old. But that's something that it's a imagery that.
Well, I don't think it was necessarily.
To him, it's something new that to him it is a threat. Well, to me, a real threat is a physical threat, but a spiritual one is like a physical one isn't as serious as a spiritual one, which is something that, while being in DesNet, I know it's it doesn't really get solved. It's more like bashing, like you're this name calling everything, which is what the song has, Antimo, which it was part of the song, but it doesn't really resolve the problems. But
okay, yeah. So I would just push back and say like, okay, well, I didn't actually issue a specific challenge. I made a joke to Jim that you have to watch out calling out specific Twitter profiles who are known to be memers, or else you will most likely have a meme be made out of you. Now, you did very impressively actually put something together, which, wow, I mean, the internet never ceases to surprise me how fast the Hive meme can conceive a challenge and rise to that challenge. I mean, they found that flag that Shia LaBeouf put out that said he will not divide us within 24 hours by analyzing like the flight patterns of the trails in the sky that the 747s were putting out, right? So it seems to me, Guatemax, that you stepped on a couple of landmines, and there were some things that I think Jim had some legitimate concerns about. We believe in repentance, you know, just like yesterday. Luke called out Jim and said like, hey, I think you've dealt unfairly with me here. You know what I'm saying? And called him unto repentance, and they had their little struggle session and kind of hugged it out a little bit, enough that they could talk on another podcast the next 24 hours. I think on a small scale, you've got some repentance to work out, not like in terms of like, you know, you sinned or something, but in the terms of self-improvement. Let's use this as a learning experience. We go forward and we make our memes.
That's my last video, obviously, which is the only one in a couple of months of production, it's the only, let's say something like this video still might make it seem that I've been like this since yesterday, every single day.
And I volunteer.
Production.
I volunteer to be your diversity reader. I'll check it. You know what I'm saying? But it's obviously you're an extremely talented individual that can do more from that keyboard right there in 24 hours than I see people put together in 24 days. So I think we're going to let Jim cool off for a couple of days, a couple of weeks. Who knows? Maybe we can work some good magic, soften some hearts, and get a free music video made out of Javelin Man or something as like, you know, a come together kumbaya moment, you know. Anybody else got any other thoughts here before we go? You know, am I just a big fat fool for thinking we could have had some kind of struggle session and hug it out again after this meme, or am I just an absolute idiot?
Wait, did you think like Jim was going to come around and Guatemax was going to come around and we'd have...
I was thinking that...
I thought so.
Oh. No.
Yeah.
I didn't even... No,
okay,
there was no
I didn't
chance.
think there was...
You don't think so?
Maybe a little bit.
Okay, Jim views Guatemax as an embodiment of DesNet, and he views DesNet as, well, we should all view DesNet as fascism. Okay, now removing that, you don't have that context. You just see Guatemax as this is just a girl in Provo who's making, you know, videos, and she's from Guatemala. What could you be upset about? And she made a couple mean jokes. That's the difference. If that is what Jim saw, of course they could hug it out. But that's not what Jim is seeing.
Yeah, but if Jim can recognize that she's a human being who's told him in person, like, yeah, or I mean over the video, but that she's leaving the DesNet thing behind, and that she was just trying to make a joke, and hey, it didn't work, but she does actually love him. And I can see that being a thing where you can actually reconcile if you're willing to forgive. If you're not willing to forgive, then
but that's also my fault because I did this within 24 hours, and I just realized right now. I just realized right now. I was like, you know, I'm kind of an idiot for having Jim face his accuser within 24 hours. Maybe if you would have calmed down.
And I don't dislike him. It's like other things that I hate that person. No, it's just the actual, basically the overall message in his Twitter. But not him as an individual. So because I was excited about in the chat the other time about the music or the music option. I didn't speak like, oh, he this. That's what he did to me. But no, I was that's something that a year ago. That's something I would have done.
Guatemax, I legitimately think it's because you've used and have participated in the DesNet hashtags in the groups. To a lot of people, I'm not trying to be a jerk, but to a lot of people, that's a forever tainting. Like they can't look past it because of the stuff DesNet has advocated and said.
I mean, Jim Bennett has reconciled with Jeremy Runnels, who wrote the CES letter. To me, that is far more damaging to the church than someone using this hashtag.
I don't know.
It absolutely is. When you look at what Luke is saying here,
we're all coming from our own
we're not.
perspectives.
No one is saying that DesNet is totally fine, right?
Oh, I'm not saying you're saying that.
But what I am saying is, like, if Jim Bennett can reconcile with the person who wrote the CES letter, I would imagine. I mean, I expected totally, without any reservation, that he would be able to reconcile with somebody who had used the DesNet hashtag. Maybe not meaning the things that he thinks it means, right? Can you see that? That seems absolutely wild to me that someone couldn't reconcile those two things.
It would
I
break
would say
their narrative.
that if you're to compare what has done more damage, or what is capable of more damage, the CES letter or DesNet, I would say DesNet's far more damaging.
Okay, but identity politics aside, that tribalistic weird thing, that's getting in the way of human beings. That's the thing I'm talking about.
Isn't DesNet basically located pretty much predominantly in just Utah?
I think you saying the word capable
right?
changed what your answer was. Because obviously racism, homophobia, violence, that's all capable of being much more destructive than some criticisms.
We don't have any actual stats on this, right? We don't have a real graph that says, here's the amount of people that have left and they've credited. We don't know. We don't know the numbers. I'm just saying, from the guy who has read the entire CES letter and has written about it, and the guy who has examined a lot of DesNet, I think DesNet is a far worse thing to would destroy people's faith in the church.
But Kwaku, you're talking about.
He's also the most online in Twitter. I think that's fair for Kwaku to feel that way because he's the most hyper aware on Twitter.
But he's also talking about groups instead of people again, right? Which I think is the thing that screws up this whole conversation. We're supposed to be looking at people as people. That's what Jim Bennett was able to do with Jeremy Runnels. That's what I thought he would be able to do with Guatemax here, right? So that's the thing that is surprising to me, is that, like, we should not allow anybody's association with any group define them in their entirety.
Which is another great President Nelson talk.
It's our identity is first and foremost as children of God. And you're never going to change a DesNat's mind if you say they're scum of the earth and we shouldn't talk to them, right?
But is it our job to change their mind?
Well, I mean...
Well, we are our brother's keeper, and it's weird. We have to... I think the intensity of Jim's rant and how he spoke about how they're the scum of the earth and that, I don't think he realized how that's the same way that some people don't like talk about progmos and how it's easy to descend into that. I think give him a couple of weeks. Now that he's seen that we're not dealing with somebody that actively dislikes you and is trying to propagate violence online. We're dealing with a very young woman here who's speaking English as a third language that is trying to do her best to combat what she sees as bad ideas online. Some of these may have been ill-conceived, and some of these may have been ill-informed and are worthy of pushback, which we are giving. But we have to believe in grace. And maybe I was a fool for having tried to do this within 24 hours of the whole controversy happening. You know what I'm saying? But I think he will. And I think that's the most beautiful aspect of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, is how we consistently teach and preach, and I believe live forgiveness. It's very difficult, though. I do not at all blame Jim for him being really hot under the collar today.
Especially with the amount that he has already done this, you know?
I avoided somebody at church today because I didn't want to talk to him. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've been struggling to forgive this person now for like years. And so like I feel for Jim 100%. I'm with you, Jim. Mm-hmm. I get it. It's really hard to forgive, but it's something we freaking have to do. Dang it. You know
that's something that I offer also, is that I do love him. It's just this is all just for one meme, basically, and then he affiliates with all the things that done in the past, basically. Something that, I don't know, the scriptures do the scriptures even support any of that?
But to quote Elder Holland,
the pure past versus, well, what do you think of you now?
Yeah, I mean, to quote Elder Holland, yes, we have to forgive, but it doesn't mean you have to forgive right away. And it's an actual quote from him. You don't have to
and I agree. I agree. I think we might have done this too soon.
Yeah. And so just because I know Jim's probably going to go back and watch this, I'm more on his side because I see the magnitude of the damage that DesNet has done, and I do feel like he and I were the only ones really acknowledging that. And that's maybe because you guys haven't seen the same amount he and I have seen. But we're talking
we haven't been targeted.
I've acknowledged that, though. I've said, yes, DesNet is bad and should be denounced, right? People are not, like, human beings, individuals, should not be held accountable for some organization that they were somehow involved with at some point, right?
Well, I mean, at some degree, you have to be.
That's somehow you're going to have to be involved in it some way, right? There's some level of degree of separation from you and the organization. But like for Jim to just take out any of his anger about DesNet on a human being, I don't think is the right way to do it. I don't think that's how he would want to be living, you know?
Well, I mean, okay, I'm interested in what you just said. Okay, so if you participated in this group, okay, and Guatemax participated in the DesNet group for what, 2 years, 2.5 years?
Some 1 month.
Okay. I feel like it was probably about 2 years, but it's okay. Okay. Oh, let's just say that. Then the worst indictment we have of Jim on Guatemax is saying that guy is a DesNet loon bag on a live stream of a channel with 8,000 subscribers. It's not the biggest indictment ever.
Yeah,
right?
and the response could be perceived as excessive.
Yes, and the response to that could be perceived reasonably so as a bit much. Okay. So I don't think Jim's really guilty of any big crime here, other than being like, I don't see the crime he's guilty of. Really, to be honest with you, he got upset because he felt that we were not acknowledging the level of depravity that is DesNet. That's where his anger.
But I agreed with that. I agreed. Yeah, DesNet's bad.
I don't think he sensed that you were.
Okay.
I don't think that's what was coming through.
Okay.
And so I mean that's just how people are. Like you got to when people get heated and you're combated, like you're not going to see it. That's just how it is.
And if that is true, then yes, I mean, I may be guilty of not knowing, because obviously until you experience something, you can't know as well. Like experience is the ultimate teacher, you know. And I hope he didn't feel like we were trying to be dismissive of that claim. I thought that was kind of like all of us agreed that.
I thought we had just accepted it and moved forward.
Yeah, I thought
that was my take on.
Well, he repeated it so many times. He was like, "There's no equivalence," and it was very clear he felt that you guys were not seeing that. That's why he kept that was the reason why when you said, "Can I finish?" he said, "No, you can't. I'm not going to let you because you keep trying to draw equalization." That's where his frustration was coming from, and that's when he checked out. The last 20 minutes of him being on there, he wasn't listening. He was completely checked out because he saw the wall of progmo equals Nazi, and he said, "No, they're not the same." And because I think you guys said, "Yeah, no, I'm not defending it," but I think you should have said, "Here is why I think they are bad and wrong." That is the kind of language that speaks to Jim and Jim's generation, an exhaustive, hey, you're right about this.
You have to be very diplomatic with
Jim. Yes,
Jim
exactly.
Is very diplomatic.
Yeah, that's something that's...
I'm hearing that.
Yeah, he did not accept that. So I was not offended with what he said, but I did a meme, and that's something that he did was offended. Basically, the voice of a collective would be for him. Instead of
I have
things
faith,
that we might have disagreed.
I have faith in my boy Jim. I think he's I have faith that we can work this out, and he's gonna get a free music video out of it.
I don't know. I hate him at all.
Okay,
I don't remember what interaction I had with him, so I don't. It's something I don't have any grudges or anything.
Okay,
it's just what he said to me. Okay, here's a meme. Yeah.
That is good. I feel this is stressful. I thought this was going to be a little bit. I thought this was going to be a quick 20 or 30 minutes.
I thought it was too, but because knowing both of you guys, knowing you, Guatemax, and knowing Jim, I'm like, they're both awesome people. Like, this should be easy to reconcile, but like,
and I thought he was going to get a free Javelin Man music video out of it. It was going to be awesome.
Yeah, so I guess.
But I really hope he doesn't feel that we weren't validating his concerns, and I think
that's how he feels. I legitimately think that's exactly what. He checked out the minute you could see it physically if you do a playback. There was an exact moment he checked out and was like, "I'm not." Yeah, and I think his wife was trying to get him off.
So my takeaway is,
that was obvious.
I should try and listen to people more, and not jump into assumptions. And probably we all should try and do that a little more, because that's what's going. And not just say you're not following President Nelson's talk, or well, you're just trying to have a double standard, and that's what I would be saying to Jim, while he would be saying the opposite to me.
And I learned you gotta wait
all down.
You gotta wait 48 hours.
And that's totally reasonable. Like what was the Holland quote, Kwaku?
oh, Lord said to forgive, but it doesn't mean you have to forgive them right away.
And maybe
I'm paraphrasing, or it was you don't have to forgive immediately. I think that's what
I accept responsibility. I need to be on. I don't know. I can't believe I'm saying this. I guess I need to be on Twitter more to understand what all of the
don't do it.
The controversy is, because I kind of thought like, oh look, Luke hugged it out with Jim not yesterday, but 2 days ago.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to hugged it out with Jim 2 days ago. We're going to get, now Jim paid it forward. Now he's going to have the chance to call out somebody else and they'll hug it out.
This will help you understand how I think the church sees it, okay?
Oh, boy.
Sunstone, a dialogue, Time Out for Women, a number of the slightly liberal to extremely liberal symposiums, right, that happen all around Utah.
Okay.
And then you have like the Firm Foundation and the Rod Meldrum stuff, which is a little more to the right. Okay. The church has never made statements on either of those. The only one they've ever made a statement about was DesNet. So that shows
really, they made an actual official statement?
Ayla Stewart to this day remains the only social media influencer to be called out by the church.
Oh, is that the chick?
That was the wife of the Purpose woman who's using the DesNet hashtag for the first time with the J. Reuben Clark account and those guys.
Okay.
That's back in 2018.
I think it was 18, yeah.
So Firm Foundation. So you have symposiums where there are people that say, I think we should have transgender ceilings in the temple, and they'll say it on camera, and the church will not say anything about it. There are people that'll say the Book of Mormon had to take place in America. Because you're really going to think it was in Mexico? Like, you have those. The church won't say anything about it. This is the only one where they said, yeah, no, we got to do something. So it's different from even the right or left of the church or anything in the Wasatch Front Facebook drama. The who is the girl we like a lot?
Did they call out DesNet or did they just call out this woman?
They called out. They quoted her tweet specifically and said, "We are against this ideology." It was 100% directly about her because she was like the number one thing trending in the state of Utah at the time. It was not vague. It was not a. We think everybody should love one another. It was we are against anyone trying to create a white culture, and we do not believe in white ethno-states. It was something like that, which is matching exactly what she was speaking about at the Unite the Right rally. So
what?
Yeah,
she went to that thing.
She was invited, right? She was invited, but before she could speak, all the rights and the fighting, everything took place. So this is a big thing that was happening. So again, and she was one of the pioneers of the DesNet hashtag.
And there was another one recently who also said a similar thing, like, oh, coloration mix and everything. But we did call him out recently. That's something that's
okay. So how do we?
Also, Nelson's word is just there's still people, but then there's also other sides of hey, it's starting to change.
Okay, so we gotta end here in a second. Here, this ended up being so much longer than I thought it was gonna be. I thought I was gonna have a decent Sunday afternoon here. You know what I'm saying? So how do look? We love Jim. I think we love Jim. We like Guatemax. I think there was a lot of I think this can get worked out, right? So how do we help that happen? What can we do?
Maybe
as
just
a
give
group?
it a week.
Yeah, maybe just give it a week. Okay,
Might
cool.
be the best thing to do.
Yeah, it's probably going to be a thing that just takes a little bit of time. But I think if we all just resolve to do better, like one thing that I think is always useful. That I don't know the exact wording of how to say this, but there was a thing that Joseph Smith would do when people would bring accusations against him, and it was that he would look and see if there was any merit in the accusations they brought, right? And say, okay, is there any way that their accusation of me is correct? And then how do I correct that in myself, Because that's the key thing that we can control is we can decide to what level we're going to be offended about things. We can, I think, work on, I mean, for me, I need to become more patient in conversations and things like this. So I think for Guatemax, see if there's anything in the way that Jim was reacting and see, like, we don't want to be triggering other members of our own church in a way that is making them frustrated, sad, or feel threatened.
A temperament can be deleted.
That's true.
That's
but
what I do with every single one of my other memes. Also, I just delete it.
Yeah,
like,
but
there's no reason to be up there. Also,
Yeah,
because it's the actual. What it's actually about. It's just basically a small meme response of what he has said. Was like, hey, there's gonna be a meme tomorrow. Like, be careful. Oh, it's just basically writing on that sentence, but it doesn't like. It's just a small meme post.
Yeah, and so
one
like
day to make.
Yeah, exactly. So it was a joke thing that like I think maybe hit harder than I think you intended, right? Like, was your intent to make Jim angry or?
No, it wasn't even like he hasn't been blocked, so he can't even see it. So that's why I highlighted in the video.
So it felt more like.
So let's talk about that also. Yeah, the musicians also. I think so. You know the videos we're making also. There's a couple of them also working with us. So it's basically.
It's hard for me to believe you didn't want it to be offensive when you're putting a blindfold on the guy and calling him anti-Mormon. Yeah,
it's with the lyrics. As I say. That's the whole point with it.
I get if you were a little bit pissed because he called you a loony bat, and you kind of went at him online.
But
that's what I would do too. Like
an old English.
If we reround about 48 hours, would you now make the same thing and put it out again?
Basically just change the antimo because he's just a progmo. Like Progmo Jim or Jabbing Jim, as you guys were saying yesterday. So just
what about the gun?
Cut that portion out, but the rest is just a distract.
Would you keep the gun?
Yeah. The gun, that's part of the imagery which we have made sure with DesNet.
Okay. I'm just curious because I think Jim at the beginning kind of said, yeah, if I went back, I wouldn't have done the whole like, oh, DesNet loon bag person. And so that was kind of his reconciliation. And I was just wondering what your position was. If you could do it again, what you would do. So yeah. That's informative. Thank you.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, because I think the key thing is it's something to understand.
Take us home, Brad.
We see, I mean, with Jim's reaction to things like the Porter Rockwell with the gun thing, there is that aspect of that younger culture using that a lot, but we can be more sensitive about that, I think, and just strive to do what we can to improve our communication. I mean, the scriptures literally say someone who does not offend in their words is a perfect man. And like, we're not going to be there till after being resurrected. So I think that like we can always do better in trying to look at how other people are interacting with us and do our best to love our neighbor as much as we can. And we can just pray and ask Heavenly Father, to what degree do I need to apply this? And he'll help us find the right answer.
Yeah. Amen, baby. Amen. Oh yeah, and let's watch out what we call satanic and not. That might be a good one too. Let's throw that one into the hopper.
Yeah.
If you tell that that's not satanic, I just call his ideology of progressivism, spiritual murder, satanic. That's what.
So and that thing. Yeah, I see where she's coming from.
No, the person they're just victims of that virus of Babylon. That's basic. This is vocabulary. That's not vocabulary. Basically, something that it still has stuck me, but even as memes, like as you have shown, it's a different presentation of what doesn't face me, even as the loon or anything. It's offensive.
So as I would just say, as kind of a third-party observer to this whole DesNet thing, I would say, would it be safe to say, Kwaku, that the word has been stolen?
No.
Whatever Deseret Nation interpretation that maybe people had at the beginning, it's now become synonymous with its worst actors.
No.
It
was started by crazy people.
It was started by crazy people.
It has been heavily used by crazy people, and it is ending with crazy people. It is objectively a bad thing.
Okay.
Although I think you did give a pass to Lego Joseph Smith before.
Yeah, I don't think he recognized. I mean, we've talked personally. He recognizes that it's pretty bad, and he's ditched it. Unfortunately, some people, you don't notice. Okay, if somebody is really a nice guy, 75% of the personality is wonderful, but then 25% of the personality really hates Koreans. I'm not going to discover that right away because I'm not Korean. But when I figure out that they've spent hours and hours and hours of trying to destroy the lives of every Korean they know, I'm going to go, whoa, maybe I shouldn't associate. It's very similar. Unless you're the target of someone's gun, you don't necessarily always know they have a gun. And so there are some DesNet types who did not realize it and now realize, oh, these people are actually anti-miscegenation. Oh, these people are actually don't believe that a certain group of minorities died in the German war. These people actually don't believe these things, and they advocate actual
Oh, no,
bad
one of them
things.
came on our page, and we blocked him.
Yeah.
I see. This is the part I wish Jim would have stuck around for, but I can see his reluctance.
He's frustrated at the moment.
Yeah, so we're going to give him a week. You know, you work on what you got to work on, Guatemax. I think you're one of the most talented young women I've ever seen on the internet. The things you pump out in 24 hours are freaking crazy and hilarious. There were some landmines in this one that we're going to, hopefully correct for the future one. But I would never want to stop you from doing what you do best. And I'm going to go talk with Jim. We'll let it cool down for a week. I'm going to buy the guy a steak dinner on your behalf, Guatemax, And well, it's also just an excuse to hang out with my friend Jim, because I think he's a great guy and he's one of the most intelligent and fun and smart and articulate dudes that I ever met in my life. So yeah, I think we've all learned a lot tonight. I don't want to sound like a high school principal, you know what I'm saying? But wow, what did we all learn here? You know what I'm saying? But yeah, I'm hoping that this all makes us reflect on those that have wronged us and how we can forgive in order to reconcile, because is that not what we learned in Come Follow Me this week in Matthew 18? You know what I'm saying? This literally is this week's lesson in Matthew 18. So I don't know if I was a fool for hoping that I could do a 22-minute live stream.
Can I buy you a new Dr. Pepper shirt? I have never seen such a faded logo, Carden. Look at that.
It was,
Oh my gosh, it has a logo.
yeah, it was made
Guatemax,
faded.
can you animate a new shirt for Carden? How about
Yeah, it was made faded, right? So anyway, all right. So Guatemax, you're cool. You're awesome. Jim, he's awesome as well.
Yeah, and my focus is animation, and I like insects. So that's the only thing I've been trying to clear myself, just animation, and I like to collect insects. That's something that I was in, like, he can sing. I was telling you, like, I'm looking for a singer or something that we should highlight our talents and we can actually do, versus just things that there's no equal ground on that. We know it's, and they're just, I think those are just fragments versus the whole individual. Like, we focus on hating on others of that 20%, while pushing out the like 80% of the remainder that's actually like that can actually bring us together, basically a common ground.
Yeah, awesome. All right, okay. So, Brad, take us home. Give us the outro.
Let's just say DesNet's a hashtag that should probably be retired, and we can all move forward with our lives, love one another, strive to live the gospel of Jesus Christ, and we will all get to a better spot.
All right, awesome.
Love you all, guys.
Thank
you for coming on, Guatemax.
Thank you.
Yes.
Both Jim and Guatemax are
Yes,
super gutsy. I didn't
Seriously, I was really impressed with Jim for coming on.
Yeah. Awesome. All right, guys. Well, we will catch you on the next one. This is Midnight Strike Through Mormons. We will see you guys in the next podcast program. It's going to be a radio program podcast. I'm not sure. We'll see you in the next one, guys. Catch you later.